Heavy Bored.
And the other thing that I learned
Not that
through
young,
this,
though. She was fairly old, right? Like, she was very old for someone at that time.
the other thing I learned about this was that, you know, everyone, when you go to the overview in school and stuff like that, you're like, oh, she didn't publish during her lifetime or whatever, but like, that's not true either. Yeah, like she didn't do much publishing, but there were like 6-7 poems published by that guy.
Yeah, and some anonymously.
Higginson is the guy that she wrote to.
I think there were a couple poems that maybe were published anonymously, and that was maybe something of a trend at the time. I think that wasn't unusual to publish poems without the name.
Yeah,
and that might have been. I think that might have been in like a school journal, maybe at Amherst or something.
Yeah, in April 15th, 1862 was when Thomas Wentworth Higginson received a letter from Emily Dickinson enclosing 4 of her poems. And then this next paragraph on page 4, or page 6 of the introduction, sorry, these fucking Roman numerals, the editor, the main author, Johnson, writes, the importance of the correspondence with Higginson thus initiated and continuing throughout Emily Dickinson's life cannot be exaggerated. In the first place, the 4 poems she initially selected reveal that in 1862, the poet was no longer a novice, but an artist whose strikingly original talent was fully developed. She enclosed Safe in Their Alabaster Chambers, that's number 216, I'll Tell You How the Sun Rose, number 318, The Nearest Dream Recedes, Unrealized, 319, and We Play at Paste, 320. What embarrassed Higginson about the poems was his inability to classify them. In 1891, he wrote an article describing this early correspondence. Quote, the impression of a wholly new and original poetic genius, he said, was as distinct on my mind at the first reading of these 4 poems as it is now, after 30 years of further knowledge, and with it came the problem never yet solved. What place ought to be assigned in literature to what is so remarkable, yet so elusive of criticism? Higginson's problem was compounded by the fact that during Emily Dickinson's lifetime, he was never convinced that she wrote poetry. As he phrased his opinion to a friend, her verses were, quote, remarkable, though odd. Too delicate, not strong enough to be published.
Yeah, so that's straight from this introduction of this book. But yeah, as you know, if you know probably at least maybe Safe in Alabaster Chambers, depending on how familiar with the poet you are, you might not know the others. You might know I'll Tell You How the Sun Rose.
Well, I think it's interesting.
Inner.
Resources, American resources.
Being bored?
Some activities are intentional, right?
It shows such a lack of gratitude for life. Bored. I aspire to boredom, I should say.
Bored. Heavy.
I am heavy.
Bored.
Has you the night sweats and the day sweats, pal? Pal, I do.